Welcome to Winning Inside, the show where we follow the journey from feeling defeated to winning. Here are your hosts, Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman.
Hello, amazing people. Welcome to the Winning Inside podcast, where we discuss real issues, topics, and solutions to help you regain your spark. We know life happens, and we can choose to be a spectator or a participant.
These conversations and stories are about the participants, the ones who made the choice to do the inner work and found a way to keep moving forward.
Hello, wonderful people. Today on the show, Winning Inside, we have an amazing guest whose name is Luke Wright, and he owns Luke Motivates, which he is a speaker, teacher, and coach. He is an instructor, a teacher. He does so many things that I'm going to let him go through his resume because I'd be here for 4 days trying to explain all the amazing things that he does. So, Luke, how are you, sir?
Doing well, Cheddy and Michelle.
This is great. This is great. So, Luke, tell everyone a little bit about you and what you do and who you are, and just in a nutshell, if you can put it in a nutshell.
Okay, nutshell. Born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. My family is from the beautiful island of Jamaica.
Yeah, man.
That's right. Where I say.
Oh, yeah, man.
I served 22 years in the Marine Corps. Portion of that time on the enlisted side, the remainder of the time on the officer side. After I retired from the Marine Corps in 2015, I made good on a promise to my dad before he passed away that he wanted me to return back to Baltimore and give back. So I spent about 3 years in Baltimore teaching Marine Corps JROTC in Baltimore County. Took a break from that, started delivering mail for the U.S. Post Office and doing motivational speaking. And I had an opportunity to come back this time to do JROTC on the Navy side. And now I am teaching in Washington, D.C. and working with a whole different group of students and doing some amazing things.
Now, I got to let you know, I've known Luke for quite a while, and this is a human being who is absolutely, definitely, positively, without a doubt, changing lives. Some of us talk about that work, and this is somebody who's actually doing it. And he does a lot of it for adults, but more importantly, he does it for young people as well, young adults, students, people in high school or college, and has changed the lives of so many people in a real way. Explain that. Elaborate a little bit on that.
Elaborate on that. Okay, so let me share a story with you about some students from my program.
Okay.
So currently, I have 2 students in the Naval Academy session, right? One at the Naval Academy Preparatory School in Rhode Island, and one that graduated from the Naval Academy Preparatory School and is currently at the Naval Academy.
Awesome.
The one that is she is the first student to ever graduate from that high school and make it into any U.S. military academy.
Wow.
My principal, who has been the principal there for about 30 years. So let's think back, Eric being Rakim days, early 80s. So, Cheddy, when you and I were in middle school, this is probably before Michelle's time, right? She was still the principal of that school.
Get out of town.
Sent me an email about maybe 2 years ago, and she said, Major Wright, I want you to make it one of your goals to get one of our students into one of the military academies. And Cheddy, I was on a speaking engagement in Rhode Island at the Naval Academy Preparatory School for a Marine Corps JROTC camp. And I took a picture beside the dorms, right? The barracks there and the schoolhouse. And I says, hey, my goal is to get one of my students there. And last year, when that student was graduating, she sent me a picture of her standing right beside the same sign. So then I sent her of the picture I took previously, and she's like, "Oh my goodness!" Let me share with you and Michelle a story about 2 young men at my school that are now at Southern University.
Yeah.
So picture this one young man, Michael, and he was living in D.C. and it was just him and his mom. Okay. Dad's not quite in the picture at all. And mom speaks just a little bit of English, and mom was working at McDonald's, right? She was the sole supporter holding it down. And during COVID, they kind of let mom go. They says, hey, every so often, we do have authorities that come by to check on the citizen status of some of the employees we have. And, probably not a good idea to keep you around. And so mom was laid off. And things got really tough. Michael, the name of this young man, didn't originally go to the high school where I taught. He was going to another high school. And my master sergeant that works with me was at a kind of meet and greet event where they talk about different programs around DC. And Michael saw my master sergeant and he was like, yeah, I want to come to that program. We don't have JRTC at our school. And when he was made aware of the JRTC program, he went to his principal and he said, how do we get a program like that here? And the principal responded to him, in an email and says, hey, respectfully acknowledge your request, yada, yada. Gave him a nice political answer. And Michael never heard anything else about it. So he started to take his destiny into his own hands. And he went to mom. He says, Mom, I want to transfer to this school, Columbia Heights Educational Campus in DC. And mom was like, I don't know about that. And he was adamant till his mom finally bent to his request and he came to our school. And during that very first week at our school, he let us know, was like, hey, I'm interested in being a pilot. I was like, okay, roger that. Interested in being a pilot. Can't promise you that out of JRTC. It's a leadership and citizenship environment. We're trying to mold you to be a greater leader and a better influence once you graduate.
Yeah.
And so COVID hits, Cheddy and Michelle. And when COVID hit, teachers go virtual, students stay at home, and some kids just folded. It's like, hey, I need to be around people. I'm not able to congregate with my fellow students. We don't get to play basketball outside. I don't get to see them in the hallway. This sucks. And it just wasn't cool. Okay. So we got an opportunity before things went wrong. There was a aviation program at Delaware State University. Okay. And the Navy had never been involved in this program. This was strictly, hey, Air Force thing. Because, Cheddy, you and I know Air Force has the money, right?
All kinds of money.
They got the best golf courses. They got the best barracks. They got the best
food.
They got it all, right? The only Marine Corps got the best
uniforms.
You know what I'm saying?
We got uniforms.
Uniforms. You know what I'm saying? So get information that this is the first time that the Navy is going to be involved.
Wow.
And my friend Carlos Nelson tells me about it. And I say, okay, Michael, here's your opportunity. Are you ready? He says, hey, Major Wright, I'm ready. And I says, we got 2 weeks. He's like, what? I said, we got 2 weeks to get you ready. We went to Costco. I got him his luggage. I got him some hygiene gear. I got him some shirts. I got him some shorts. And I think we got him a pair of like Docker style shoes. And there was another parent that was going up with his son. So that was his transportation up there. And then I think I might have put some money in his pocket and we were able to get Michael on his way.
Wow.
He was the deal, Cheddy. This guy, he's graduating this year. I says, Mike, in order to do this, you're going to miss your graduation. He's like, I got it. And he went, right? So he had to forego this opportunity of going across the stage with all his fellow students, right? Because you don't get a second chance at graduation, right? If it's about it, right?
Yeah.
And so he misses his graduation. And so a couple weeks into flight school. I'm checking on him. Everything is going well. And Delaware State Aviation Program, maybe we have some really nice mentors that really take care of the students. And I want to say about week 3, he sends me this video. He's in the cockpit. And I'm like, how are they in the cockpit already? He's in the cockpit with the teacher. He's like, okay, they're just checking out the equipment. I'm watching the video and the plane is going down the runway. It's like, okay, where's this going? I'm watching, and Cheddy, I'm almost tearing up here. He's going down, plane takes off, right? Up in the air. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This is a kid that just graduated from high school a couple weeks ago. 3 weeks into the camp, this kid is in a plane going down the runway and takes off. I'm like, okay, let me watch this again and see if I can see if there's some artificial intelligence in here. And Michael is playing with me, right? I was like, I know these kids are much more savvy with the tech than I am. And I was like, this is for real. Several weeks go by. And I'm talking to this kid. I'm keeping up with him because I'm like, this is not how it works, right? In order to graduate from this program, you are required to take off from the initial airport, make 2 landings, and return back, right? Here's the check. Here's the catch, Cheddy. By yourself.
Nice. Solo flight. Wow.
By yourself.
Wow.
Right? And I thought about the level of courage, maturity, perseverance, and determination that you would have to make this happen.
Yes.
Right? There's no military contract here. There's no mission, right? No one's dropping you over Russia, Ukraine, Vietnam, Saudi, Afghanistan. You're just a high school student. At any time you can say, hey, man, I ain't ready for this. And this kid did it. During the camp, we had a couple video conferences and he was showing me the maps and what he had learned about aviation and how several flights had to be called off because, hey, President Biden's in the area, Camp David, hey, you guys aren't flying today. And I was thinking, wow, what this kid is learning at this point. So let's fast forward. He graduates, and at this time, he's supposed to be at school, right? He's supposed to have checked into Southern. So he's behind. So I'm conversing with his CO, the Navy captain at Southern, was like, hey, sir, we're on track. I'm going to make sure as soon as he graduates, get him back to DC, pick up his gear, put him on a plane. Because, we'd already bought his ticket to Southern. We'd raised some money through GoFundMe and made sure all that was taken care of. So now I get a call from the captain at the school. And he says, no, the lieutenant colonel at the schoolhouse. And he says, hey, Major Wright, I heard about Michael missing his graduation. He's like, yes, sir. He missed his graduation in order to be here. He says, we're going to try to make up for that. I was like, okay, sir. He's like, are you going to come to the graduation? I say, hey, sir, I'm going to be there. So I get to the graduation and the guest speaker is one of the pilots that had just returned from space. Okay.
Wow.
So he's the guest speaker. So we get there, and unbeknownst to Michael, he didn't know who the guest speaker was going to be, and they're going to receive their wings during graduation, right? You've completed the course, you're receiving your pilot wings. And so they graduate everybody. Everybody gets their wings pinned on. The guest speaker is finished speaking. And so the lieutenant colonel and director of the program called me back up. And what we do is We get Michael's mom on the stage, get Michael on the stage, and we present him with his high school diploma.
Wow.
So mom is in tears. Michael is caught off guard, and it's very emotional. And it comes down to he knew what he wanted, and he was willing to make that a priority and say that, yeah, high school graduation is once in a lifetime, but this dream is more important to me. And I will never let something that matters least come before something that matters most. Wow. And today, Michael is at Southern University. He applied for a Navy ROTC scholarship, received a scholarship, I think, for $186,000. So he's on a 4-year scholarship at Southern. So that is an awesome story about one young man. And then the second story.
Well, before we get into the second story,
go ahead, Michelle.
I just wanted to, this young man, Michael, just sounds absolutely incredible. He's the kind of young individual that you look at and you're like, thank the Lord. We have a chance.
We're going to be okay.
You know?
We're going to be okay.
Tonight.
I know, right? But what I got from that is that, and this is incredible at such a young age. He made the choice not only of what matters more, what matters most, but what is part of his future, versus understanding that walking across the stage, while incredible, and receiving that diploma, which means so much to him, to his mother, of course, who, you know, who knows how much she even sacrificed to get him to that point. And yet that is sort of that finite moment that defines your past, right? It caps off your past. But he was already looking into his future, and he made the choice for his future self. He made the decision that what is best for my future self and my family's future self is here, versus this that is part of my past. And the maturity, and you spoke to that, at that age is incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So the other story is about a young man named Christian, right? And Christian and Michael, same graduating class. Michael more of the academic guy, Christian more of the physical guy. And so when I had to convince Christian to come into the JRTC program. You know, when you see somebody and you probably see more in them than they see in themselves?
Yes.
That was Christian.
I see that all the time.
It took several weeks, probably a month or so, for me to get him, right? And he's like, oh yeah, Major Wright, I'm going to do it. Major Wright, I'm coming. And I finally get him into the program. And, you know, I had to convince him to get rid of the beard because, you know, all the girls love the beard. He had the wavy hair. He had the nice tennis shoes, the nice clothes. And the crowd that he hung around with wasn't conducive to his potential. And he began to separate himself from the people he used to hang around with to the new environment and the students within JRTC. And it was an amazing transformation. I remember us going to a drill competition, Michelle and Cheddy, and the students, they had practiced for weeks on their drill performance and the techniques. They even came up with some new techniques that they performed at school in the auditorium. And I was just taken aback at their transformation from where they were to where they gotten to. So we go to this drill competition, and I think we might have been one of the only Navy JRTC programs there. Everybody else was Army and a couple Air Force. So we're there, and the color guard did well and placed. However, The platooning squad did not. And Christian broke down in tears, right? So you get this kid that is not the thug, not the gangster, but, pretty,
Tough guy.
tough guy. And he broke down. And I remember holding him, right? We're in the middle of the gym. There's kids all around and our students kind of gathered around. And I mean, he broke down. And it was a very emotional moment. So let's fast forward. Within JRTC, you have a staff. You have an XO, you have a senior enlisted, you have an admin, you have a supply clerk, just almost like you would have in a company and or battalion, depending on the size. And there came a time when we had to select the new CO. And
now, CO stands for commanding officer, correct?
Commanding officer.
Okay.
And we had a student in mind, right, for months that, hey, this was going to be the student. But that student, over the last months with COVID, just kind of slid back, right? It was like, not liking what I'm seeing, right? And so the second person we had in mind was Christian. Christian wasn't as seasoned, wasn't as polished, but man, was he motivated. And we decided to select Christian as the commanding officer of our Navy JRTC program. And he wasn't very polished, needed some work. And we ended up going to this camp, right? We go to this camp in Stafford, Virginia, at Cyber Bites Foundation, which is right outside of Marine Corps Base Quantico.
Oh, yeah. No, it was. Cyber Bites is awesome.
Awesome, right? So we got 2 weeks of camp. One camp is drones and robotics, and the other camp is 3D printing. So we're at the 3D printer camp, and Christian is in the class along with his fellow cadets and a whole room of other cadets from different programs across the nation. And he is, as we would say in the Marine Corps, he's stepping on his crank, right? His ego is getting in the way. He's getting too big for his britches, as mom would say. And there's been several incidences where I'm like, had to talk to him, counsel him, pull him aside. And I made the decision that was like, we're going to have to relieve him. Ooh. And in the military, when you hear the word relieve, that means fired.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, equals fired. Launched.
It means you're getting fired. Now, when there's no paperwork to go along with it and you just kind of get transferred to another job, that's what they call a soft relief. Right? But when you go through the whole procedures, when you stand in front of the man and you get paperwork that details why the transfer and the relief was made, that's a solid relief, right?
There's cause. Yeah.
On that. So as any good instructor does, I had a discussion with my master sergeant and I said, what do you think, master sergeant? And master sergeant says, I agree with you. So, staff NCOs and officers should work together. And we decided to make that decision there at camp. We pulled them in a room. I grabbed the student that we were going to replace him with. I informed her and we pulled him in a room and we let him know, right? And it hurt him. There was a 3D printer that every student was building during that camp. So you receive that 3D printer in pieces and you put it together piece by piece, starting on Monday. By Tuesday evening, Wednesday, you're already printing. So you get to take that 3D printer home, $2,500 3D printer, okay? So his printer was already built. I made the decision that printer wasn't going home with him, okay? And we had a discussion and, he kind of begged and pleaded for his job. And I was like, no, this is going down. And I think I put him in my vehicle And I took him back to DC and I told the new CEO, hey, you move your chair up, you sit in at the desk where he was sitting. Fast forward, now he's at Southern University, right? And shortly after that, I spoke to my friend Carlos Nelson, who was helping with his ROTC package. And I was like, hey, Carlos, I'm done with him, right? I'm not endorsing that package. He doesn't have it together. He's not ready. And Carlos spoke to him and he says, with some very colorful words, get yourself together. Those weren't the words that he used, but
I'm sure they weren't.
fill in your colorful words and adjectives. And he said, Major Wright is serious. He spoke to me. He's like, he ain't endorsing your package. And those two sat on the phone like for 2 consecutive days, I think, one session for 4, one session for 5 hours, something like that, and got all of this paperwork done for his ROTC scholarship application. And he finally got in. We had a conversation about 3 weeks ago, and he says to me, Major Wright, he says, when you fired me as CO, that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, keep
100%.
He's only 18 years old right now.
Yeah.
You have adults that would never admit that being fired or being let down or sent off was a benefit to them, right? He could have taken that decision of me firing, put his tail between his legs, gone home, said, Major Wright don't like me. I don't need to be in that program. I don't think I want to be in the military. But he said, no, I'm going to take this lesson that I've learned and prove to Major Wright that I can mature and I can pull myself together. And that's exactly what he did. And he got in the gym. He worked out. He increased his physical fitness status. He separated himself even more from certain distractions. The icing on the cake to this, and he might be a little embarrassed about this story, but I think he's okay with me sharing it. Keep in mind that during this period, his girlfriend was a year ahead of him, okay? And was going through the Naval Academy prep school, okay? And kind of the same time, they part ways. So now you get, hey, my girlfriend is going to the Naval Academy. I haven't even graduated from high school, and I get fired as the CO.
This is the makings of a country music song. I mean, this is like one thing compounded on top of another. It's like, it's a chock full of bad right now. Where do you go from this point?
Hey, and then I shot his dog.
Yeah, right. I mean, so you nailed it. The kid had 2 choices. Am I the victim or am I taking responsibility? And the taking of responsibility really, and I know, even though I don't know you, I think I know you, that that when I say this, when there are leaders that show up in our lives and they show up unconditionally, and that's you, I'm talking about you, Mr. Wright. When they show up at that capacity, it lets us become aware of what that possibility looks like, right? And you gave him the opportunity, and sure, there are other adults in his life that wanted to hold him accountable and did hold him accountable. But that level of accountability, because that's what you did, is you held him accountable. Like, you knew what the expectations are. I spoke to you about it, and I am not going to let this slide. This is not something you can talk your way out of. It may have been the first time he couldn't talk his way out of something.
Yeah.
And that is where it was like, that's the tipping point, right? Like, that's where you're like, you decide, am I going to be the victim, or am I going to step it up and be the adult and take charge of my life? And it's such a great story. And there was a moment in time where he made that decision. But it takes the village. It takes the people like you. It takes your contact at Southern that stood up, was on the phone with him for hours and unconditionally say, yes, we're going to get through it. And it took that many people to help one child and that much effort to help one child. How do we help the others? Right?
Wow. How do we help the others? So, that's a really tough question, Michelle and Cheddy. And I honestly have to say, sometimes you really have to be selective, because sometimes when you have a big heart, you want to help everybody, right? Hey, I want you to have a scholarship. I want you to have, you want to be Oprah, right?
The Oprah of scholarships.
I'll take
Everybody gets a scholarship. And there's many people that want the gift, but they don't want the grind and hustle that goes with it. And many times I have to give kids the stiff arm, and not physically, but it's like, and realize that, no, I can't invest my time into you because you're not serious, right? You're just trying to find a place to hang out, or you're just trying to, BS me or whatever. And when I cut those students off or don't provide them my time, that gives me more time to focus on the Christians and Michaels and Tanya's and you that are really interested in going to a better situation. So that type of discipline that says, hey, yeah, you're a cool kid. I like you. I can give you a fist pound in the hall, but I realize that you're not serious. And if I spend time with you, that means that I'm taking time away from this kid. So boom, hey, here's your fist pound. I gotta go. What can we do to help these other students is invest in them, but at the same time, like you pointed out, Michelle, be stern with them, because the world beyond the high school wall will drop kick them in the chest, right? And there will not be a Cheddy, a Michelle, or Luke to give them a hug and this, that, and say, give you another chance. So you have to explain to them like, hey, I'm stern with you for this reason. Because when you get outside of these walls, you're no longer Christian and Michael and Tanya and Yusel. You're Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so. And there are expectations that you have to meet. If you don't show up, I just take you off the schedule, right? I can soft fire you, right? So you if you're working at Amazon or Walmart, okay, I was late. I had to do this. I had to do that. Okay, you on a schedule Monday through Friday. Now you're on a schedule Tuesday and Thursday. You thought you had the day off. Then you come back. Oh man, I see I'm only working Friday. Man, I got the whole week off. No, you've been fired. Like the next week, you're not on the schedule at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just like you said, Michelle, it takes an investment and then some tough love, right? Loving them to the point that they know they care, but not loving them so much that you spoil them and pull them away from the discipline and determination that they need in order to be successful when they're not in your eyesight.
I'm gonna add to that a little bit, Luke. You have a saying, don't find an excuse, find a way. And these two stories of Michael and Christian and others, because I'm sure you have a myriad of stories in this same vein, really speak to that, which is the essence of who you are and why you do what you do. You have taught these young people, these young men and women, these students, how to not just live in the excuse space, but to find a way through and beyond it to get to the goal that they have and the desire they have and the things they want to attain. That's profound. What got you into that? What made you do? Why is it that you do the things you do?
Oh, wow. So a couple things. As I said, my family is from the beautiful island of Jamaica. My mom came to the United States in 1968, about 4 or 5 months after Martin Luther King was assassinated. My dad, I think, came in 71. And my dad had a optical business. in Baltimore City, all Wright Optical, standing for Robert Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T Optical. And he had several jobs, like at Bethel Steel and some other places when I was a baby. But by the time I was in kindergarten, he had his own business. And I never saw him working for anybody else. So I remember getting off the bus from elementary school, walking across the street to his shop and spending a great deal of time with him. Now, so you're talking about the late 70s, right? And so one of the first things my dad taught me how to do was to answer the phone, right? All Right Optical. So you imagine this little kid answering the phone. And so my dad, he grinded the glasses, he assembled the frames, he sold the glasses, and he also had an optician in the back that examined your eyes. And I remember the first doctor that he had was a white guy. And it didn't hit me until I was like 30 something, right? And I was like, here we are in the late 70s, and my dad has a white doctor working for him. And I realized that when I went to school, I never questioned whether I was good enough than any other student, because the image I had of my dad at home, this is like, hey, you can do this despite of your race or your accent or where your parents coming from or anything. So that was the belief that I had in myself, was like, okay, my dad is a reflection of me. I'm a reflection of him. If he can do it, I can do it. So that was one. Fast forward to the Marine Corps, before we meet Cheddy and OCS. Before I came into the Marine Corps, Michelle and Cheddy, I couldn't swim a lick, right? Not even a little bit, okay? I could count to you how many times I had been in the pool before I got to boot camp. Now, that is, my older brother swam, my dad could swim, all of them growing up in Jamaica. So, me growing up in the concrete jungle of Baltimore City, you don't see too many pools. You don't go to the pool too many times. It wasn't until I received the word that I was going to be able to get into the officer transition program that I was like, okay, you better get serious about this, because Marine Corps don't play, right? Meet the requirement in the Marine Corps, hook or crook. If you don't meet it, you don't get it, right? Bye-bye. That's it. We don't give away anything, right? Marine Corps is semper fidelis, always faithful in that. You either meet the requirement or you don't get the prize.
Do or die.
Yeah. Do or die. So after I'm at Norfolk State University in Virginia, I can't swim. So I get a membership to the Y, the local Y, right, at near Mount Trashmore in Virginia Beach. And I would go to Mount Trashmore in the evenings, Cheddy, to try and teach myself how to swim. I got to a point where I could swim, I'm going to say, let's say 20 feet. I'm going to give myself 20 feet. And as you remember, Cheddy, I was pretty fast, right, on my feet.
Yes.
And Michelle, I would try to swim the same way I ran.
Just fight in the water. The water always wins,
right? and what happens within 3 or 4 strokes is that you drink a lot of chlorine and pool water, and you go almost nowhere, right? And I remember standing up in the pool, Michelle and Cheddy, and I would see like a guy that was like round, right? Robust.
Yes.
And the guy would just float through the water.
Gliding through the water.
Just glide through the water.
No effort.
And
senior citizens.
Tread water to like up to his nipples, right? Yeah. And I would try it, and I would tread water and could only see my eyebrows.
I could cross my legs and sit at the bottom of the pool. Yeah, I get this.
I was like, what? Nah, this ain't how this works,
Yes.
I did not understand the techniques of swimming. And in the morning time, I would go to the military base, the naval base, and I would try to swim. And this is how bad I wanted it, Cheddy. I would go, and I had a 91 Volkswagen Jetta. I would drive from Virginia Beach to the base, okay, get in the pool, no goggles, right? No goggles. I was a strong Marine. Thinking goggles, right? And whoever the maintenance guy was,
shaking his head, poor guy,
that controlled the chlorine in the pool, I'm sure this is the same guy responsible for putting the gas in the gas chamber, right? Same guy, had to be, right? Because his hand was heavy.
Very
right?
sadistic. I was just pouring that chemical, just dumping it in there, yeah.
Just dumping it in there. If it calls for, 10 gallons of chlorine, we're going to put 25. And I remember leaving the pool, heading to Norfolk State to go to first period class. And Cheddy, I should have been arrested because I could not see, right? But I knew the way, right? Because I had driven it so many times. But if a cop had stopped me, I should have been arrested because I couldn't see. Yeah, exactly.
Chemical burns.
Follow my finger. Nope.
What finger?
One
Which
finger.
one?
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like, have you had anything to drink? Yes, 5 gallons of food this morning. So with that being said, looking back at my dad, he found a way, right, to this country to create a business, even though he wasn't a citizen, even though he didn't have the resources, even though he wasn't American, even though sometimes the odds were against him. And at that time, he and my mom had divorced. And so you're dealing with that added friction and challenge.
Yeah.
And with the Marine Corps, going from enlisted to officer, I made that commitment in my mind is like, I'm not going back to the fleet as a sergeant. That's not going to happen, right? When I come back, I'm going to have those bars. So in my mind, there was no excuse, right? There was nothing that was going to get in my way that was going to prevent me from getting what I came for. And it put some challenges on my marriage, man. I remember one time being at Rhode Island. This was in Booth, brought opportunities for officer selection and training. And my wife was talking to me one evening, and we only had one kid at the time. It's like, hey, don't interrupt me. I'm studying. That's the priority right now. And to me, I was okay with that. And I sat down on the couch and I'm studying, and all of a sudden I hear this crying in the bathroom. And my wife had gone and taken a shower, and she was in there bawling, right? Because what I had said to her and what was translated to her was, I don't care about you right now. You're not important, right? The Marine Corps is important. You're not important. And I didn't realize how much of a monster I had become at that point. And so there is some tapering that you have to do as a leader, So don't find an excuse. There's a cost to being successful, and sometimes you have to be willing to pay that price.
Luke, I love that. Because knowing you're so giving, and it's good to know the backstory behind that, because ever since I've known you, you have always shared from a place of passion, a place of authenticity and just realness that really blows my mind. And I appreciate it. I've respected you for that. You became a speaker before I did. In fact, I came to you when I said I wanted to become a speaker and a coach, and you gave me some really great tips. And I'm actually glad that I followed the advice that you had given me. So I want to say thank you today. If I've never said it publicly, thank you so much, because I wouldn't be in this life. I wouldn't be on this podcast if it wasn't for you. So thank you so much.
No problem. Hey, I appreciate that, my brother.
Now, one other thing, if people want to reach out to you, what is the one way they can reach out to you to kind of find out more about who you are and what you do and the things that you're doing out there for the community and for business professionals, leaders, individuals? Because you affect a lot of people. So how can they reach you?
Oh, the best way is lukemotivates.com, right? Or via email, lukemotivates@gmail.com. Very responsive via email. So if someone reaches out to me and they want me to come speak at their event as a speaker or do a keynote, I'm more than willing to do that
Wonderful.
to them and their organization.
Outstanding. So you heard it here. It's going to be lukemotivates.com or lukemotivates@gmail.com. Luke, I want to thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate you taking the time with us to share about some of the growth stories and just how people overcame adversity. And I know, Michelle, you have some comments because you're just awesome like that. But thank you for your time, Luke. Love you, brother. And hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my turn?
Oh, your turn. Absolutely your turn, Michelle.
No, on that last story that you shared with us in particular regarding your wife and the moment of self-reflection, because we can get so hyper-focused on our goals, on our missions, that are incredibly meaningful to us. And yet sometimes we lose sight of the things that we have so much control over, like communication. Right. Yeah. And you had that moment of self-reflection where it caused you to pause and really reassess. Okay, what am I actually saying? How can I communicate that differently? And communication was part of your other story too, where you said, if you want to speak and be stern with kids, like we need to do that, but we also need to tell them why. Right. So it's okay to be direct. It's okay to be stern. It's okay to, discipline. And sometimes you have to be a little bit more harsh and direct. But when you say why, the why is because, and I loved how you said, you're Christian, you're Michael, you're Tanya now. But when you leave here, you're Mr. this and Mr. that and Miss this. And you will be held accountable to the same standards that somebody has been an adult for 30 years is held to. So you communicated that so clearly and so perfectly and concisely that I'm totally using that. I'm totally borrowing that and using that. So thank you so much. And the self-reflection where the people closest to us, sometimes we don't see, we think we've mastered this art of communication. And yet when we get so hyper-focused, we sometimes lose sight of that. So thank you for sharing that as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Luke, we appreciate your time. And this has been a good conversation. Hopefully you'll see some of the wins and some just how people have overcome. And if you like today, please subscribe, follow, share, and most importantly, use whatever adds value to your amazing life.
And remember, even if life puts barriers in our way, we are still moving forward, signing each Monday for a new episode of Winning Inside.
Take care, folks.
Thank you for listening to Winning Inside with Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure to click the follow button, rate and review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can connect with Cheddy and Michelle at winninginside.io. Keep listening. Another episode is coming soon.